Barry White was an American singer, songwriter, record producer, arranger, musician, and composer. He was sometimes called the Walrus of Love, and other times, more respectfully, the Maestro. He had a silky, deep, distinctive voice that drove women crazy and earned him a reputation as one of the most romantic singers of all time. His hit single, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, solidified his status as one of the architects of disco music. He owned the 1970s, even if the Grammys committee didn't think so. Barry White waged a public boycott of the Grammy Awards in 1974 when he was snubbed in favor of Bette Middler for the Best New Artist Grammy. Well, his career had a resurgence in the 1990s when he released Practice What You Preach in 1994. The 90s also brought Barry White to the small screen with appearances on The Simpsons and Ally McBeal. He was able to close out the decade with a new generation of fans, and the year 2000 brought him what he thought he deserved at the beginning of his solo career, a Grammy. In fact, 2 Grammys for his hit single, Staying Power. He won for Best Traditional R&B Performance and Best Male R&B Vocal Performance. Many would say that by the year 2000, Barry White had it all. A new, young girlfriend, 41 platinum albums, worldwide music sales in excess of $100 million, TV appearances, 2 generations of fans, and 2 Grammys. Unfortunately, he also had many health problems, and in 2003, those health problems got the best of him. His hypertension caused kidney failure that ended his life way too soon, at the age of 58. And Barry White, like a long list of other entertainers who came before him, and many who will come after him, did not have an updated will at the time of his passing, leaving behind the women who were in his life in different capacities, and his children to have to figure out just who would get what from the sizable fortune that he left behind. He was survived by an ex-wife, an estranged wife, adult children born in and out of wedlock, the girlfriend who was his lover in his last days, and the child who she claimed was his. Let's get into it. But first, if you like these videos about the most scandalous celebrities from yesteryear that make the Hot Mess History with Ty Said What Ty Said channel a time capsule for the culture, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know every time that I upload one of these videos or every time that I live stream, and comment "I subscribed" in the comment section so that I can say hello to you. Now, on to why you are here. In 2003, many fans in the United States and even other parts of the world got a bit of a shock, and some even mourned when the news got out that Barry White passed away at the relatively young age of 58. If some of his die-hard fans mourned his death, it only makes sense that those who were the closest to him in his personal life, his wife, his children, and his girlfriend who was his lover in his final years, would have mourned his death too. Some would assume that his girlfriend would have probably been the most heartbroken because she watched his daily struggles as he tried to cling on to life during the height of his illness. But his new young girlfriend, Catherine Denton, took advantage of Barry White in his last days and would try to take advantage of him in the cruelest way, even after his death. One of the earliest public mentions that I have found of Barry White's relationship with Catherine Denton is in this issue of Ebony magazine, dated February 2000. In an article called 10 Hottest Couples that was featured in what Ebony magazine called Black Love, Barry White and Catherine Denton were highlighted among other successful couples like Vanessa Williams and Rick Fox, Lauryn Hill and Rohan Marley, and Halle Berry and Eric Benet. And in case you are wondering, yes, my naming these couples is complete sarcasm, but also completely real. These couples were actually chosen by Ebony magazine as romance inspiration for its readers. The short write-up that Ebony published about the couple revealed a few things worth mentioning. 1. Catherine Denton was Barry's assistant before she became his lover. 2. Even though in the past he had announced that he would never marry again, he told another publication that he was rethinking that decision after meeting Catherine. 3. He was sharing his home with Catherine. And 4. He called her, quote, one of the sweetest women he had ever known, and he also said this of her, quote, she is without games and always willing to listen and learn, end quote. Well, just 4 weeks before Barry passed, Catherine gave birth to a little girl, Barryana, who was clearly named after her father, right? And so the news outlets that reported on his death, for the most part, said that these were the people Barry left behind: an ex-wife, an estranged wife, a girlfriend, and 9 children, baby Barryana being the 9th one. Well, that was the story. But here was the problem. As mentioned before, Barry White had a multitude of health problems, and they got the better of him in his last days. He spent the end of his life in an incapacitated state, lying in a bed, paralyzed and unable to speak. So when it came down to the unfortunate and uncomfortable business of reading the will and splitting up his estate for the people he left behind, his girlfriend, Catherine Denton, was one of those people who went crawling to Barry White's wife to ask for her piece of the pie. Yes, to make it very clear, for the entire course of his relationship with Catherine, Barry White was still legally married to his second wife, Claudine James. He had separated from Claudine years before, but neither he nor she ever filed for a legal divorce. Now, Barry White had a will in place, but it hadn't been updated to include the newer people who had come into his life since his separation from Claudine. So Claudine basically ended up becoming the gatekeeper of his assets, with everything that he had not already willed to someone else automatically, rightfully defaulting to her possession, as she was his legal wife. Catherine Denton tried to get past that gate with a lawsuit. Her lawsuit claimed that she needed money and personal items that Barry White had promised to her, including a Rolex and a Lexus. According to her, she needed to continue living her life of luxury because that's what Barry wanted for her. Barry's desire was for her to live with more than enough money in his Los Angeles residence. According to Catherine's attorney, the lawsuit was filed only in an effort to fulfill Barry White's wishes. Barry's girlfriend wouldn't be the only one who would need to get a green light from Claudine to get some of his fortune. At least a couple of his children would have to do the same. Speaking of his children, one of Barry White's children had a feeling that his girlfriend was lying about Barry being the father of her child. And when the battle started heating up over how his multi-million-dollar estate would be split up, that suspicious daughter of Barry's told the press just what she thought about Barry's girlfriend. In a 2003 edition of the Detroit Free Press, a quote from Barry's daughter, Shahira, who was 26 years old at the time, read, quote, "My father has 8 children, not 9. There is some question whether the baby is his. He was in hospital when it was claimed she was pregnant with his baby." End quote. And that's how the quote reads, in hospital, not in the hospital. This same daughter also told the press that Catherine Denton would not agree to taking a paternity test. Well, that never helps anyone's case now, does it? And In case Catherine was wondering if Barry's family trusted her, they made it very clear when it came to the day of his funeral, when she was not allowed to attend. The Guardian London pulled a quote from Catherine Denton taken from a British broadcasting company program called You Can't Take It With You, a quote regarding her being barred from the funeral. She said, quote, "I would love to have gone to that funeral. I didn't know people could go to this extent." End quote. My. How ironic and audacious at the same time, because when all was said and done, Catherine Denton did finally take that paternity test, and lo and behold, Barryana was not Barry White's biological daughter. How horrible that she sent this man to his grave with such a wonderful lie that he had a newborn daughter. Well, unfortunately, even though Barry White had not done a complete overhaul on his will, he did manage to make it clear that he wanted Catherine to have his house in Los Angeles, and she got it. Less than 2 years after his death, she sold the home to a real estate developer for a little less than $3 million. In my humble opinion, it's a shame that she got anything, but maybe you feel differently. Please share your opinions with me in the comments section. Much like Barry White, Teddy Pendergrass was also very ill in his last days, and also like Barry White, Teddy didn't have a proper will in place. But unlike Barry White, who left a multi-million-dollar estate, Teddy Pendergrass had a lot less when he passed away. So, after his death, his son and his wife had to duke it out in court to see who would get what of the very little that he had left behind. I published a video about that story that you can see here. I will also leave a link to it in the description box. My sources for this video are Billboard Newspaper Archives, Ebony Magazine Archives, Detroit Free Press Archives, Jet Magazine Archives, TMZ.com, The Guardian London Archives, Momma.com, and Courthouse News Service back issues. If you want text notifications so that you can get a text 15 minutes before I release a video or 15 minutes before I live stream, simply send a text to 786-632-2135 to let me know that you want text, and you will get an outgoing text message 15 minutes before I have a new video release. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ty Said What Ty Said channel. Please leave a thumbs up and comment so that we can get a discussion going. And share this video on all of your social media, especially your Facebook. That really helps me out a lot. And subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when my next video is ready for you. And if you don't like what I'm saying but you love it, feel free to hit that applaud button just below your video screen there and send me some
donations.
Yeah, baby. See you on the next video.